Welcome back to Recovery Demystified. My name's Early. I'm so happy to have y'all here today. If you have been looking for a method of addiction recovery that does not involve God or spirituality, hello, it's nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here. Today, I interviewed my friend Misha, and I'm really excited to share that conversation with y'all. It's a fellow neurodivergent queer person, and I love being able to talk to people that have been through addiction that are also neurodivergent and queer, because there's just so much mutual understanding and things that normally we really have to pick apart and explain to other people that when it's just us, we don't have to do. So I was really excited to talk with them about that. There's like a lot of other relatable parts about their story for me, like having to grow up in a church environment and being institutionalized and traumatized more by being institutionalized, getting a fake bipolar diagnosis while being institutionalized. I'm like, are we really talking about this again? If y'all missed it in the episode with Sarah, I talked about how a lot of times when people go inpatient at these like psych facilities, that some psychiatrist will meet you for 15 minutes, not know anything about you, decide that you're bipolar, when if you look at the book that they use to diagnose mental health issues in people is called the DSM-5, and if you read through the diagnostic criteria for bipolar disorder, you cannot diagnose someone with it if their behavior can be explained by the use of a substance. So people that are in the mental hospital for detox or for just fucking freaking out because they're self-medicating with alcohol or drugs as a trauma response or whatever, those people, technically speaking, if these medical professionals are using this book the way that they're supposed to, they should not be diagnosing everyone as bipolar and filling them up with a bunch of sketchy psych meds when they don't need it. And anyway, I just hate hearing that story over and over. Of course, some people can both be bipolar and using substances, obviously, but medical professionals need to use more care and thought when they're diagnosing people that are just in a fucking crisis for another reason that doesn't have to do with being bipolar. So there's my freaking soapbox about that. But anyway, it was really very tender and sweet to be able to talk with Misha for as long as we did, and I got to know a lot more about them. Their story has some pretty sticky points in it that's hard to hear, having to do with sexual assault both in childhood and adulthood and things of that nature. So if you're not ready to listen to something like that, just please take good care. And without further ado, here is my interview with Misha. Hello, Misha. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing super well. How are you, Early?
I'm doing pretty good. Would you start by introducing yourself to the audience? Let them know your pronouns and a little bit about yourself.
Hi there. My name's Misha. He, him. I'm a local shithead. I'm in college right now, studying environmental science, which, it's a lot of opportunity there nowadays with the powers that be, but just kind of hanging in there. I work at a restaurant in town and just kind of living life.
Heck yeah. You're a dirt nerd, right?
Yeah. Love me some soul.
Hell yeah. Cool. Well, let's get right into it. I'm curious about your story with addiction and recovery. So let us know what it was like being a kid, some of your first encounters with substances or alcohol, when it got bad, and how you got into recovery. So just start wherever you'd like.
So I'm sure it wasn't really all like this, but whenever I look back at my childhood, I kind of just remember it as just being generally boring and sad with just big little hot spots of trauma too. But I was raised, on a farm in southern Arkansas by angry conservative religious fundamentalists. So it was just kind of difficult and complicated. We weren't really locals to the town too. It was kind of a weird good old boy town that I grew up in, just really horrible system. And I didn't have a whole lot of friends growing up, kind of bullied in school and stuff. It was really weird though too, because we were Lutherans and there just weren't that many or any at all other Lutherans in the town I was in, so they drove us an hour for church every fucking Sunday. And it was just I just remember feeling so miserable.
A lot of like kind of outsider feelings.
Yeah, definitely. And also just like, I don't know, it's not like being a part of a church in that town would have felt any better, just because like, a lot of like queer repression, no matter what end of the stick you're getting there. But so yeah, I have 2 older brothers and mom and dad who are still together and stuff like that. Just the 5 of us on the farm. I was 5 and 6 years younger than my brothers, so I'm not really close to them at all. They were kind of horrible to me growing up as well. They just kind of like mean little fuckers.
Brothers.
Yeah, isn't it funny? They're always just like, that's just how brothers are. We let them do shit with impunity. It's just like universal.
Training to grow up to be a man in a patriarchal society, so.
Well, sadists. I don't know why.
Goodness. What kind of farm was it?
Livestock. We raised cattle. And it was like relatively small. Like we sold 2 feedlots. I have a lot of complicated feelings about that now, like with my current path and stuff, but it was a way to grow up. I grew up like working a fuck lot.
Did you, as a kid, work on the farm?
Yeah, I was pretty much like I had responsibilities on the farm starting as young as like 4 or 5. Like kind of smaller things and stuff too, but like at a point like it got, I don't know, it was just like my dad didn't know how to like teach anybody anything, so it's like this weird mix of like I had to work my ass off all the time, but the dude wouldn't stop yelling at me all the time, so I feel like I came out of it with like almost no technical skill too at the same time, so it's just kind of like.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you said it was both boring and traumatic. Would you talk about how it was both of those things?
I just felt like I wasn't like encouraged to be myself at all times, like there's a lot of just kind of like I don't know, I felt kind of surrounded by derision and stuff. I wasn't really like allowed to like be my fullest self. So and like living in a like really, really restrictive religious culture, like it felt super boring and just like every day waking up, raising animals that like I grew to love and they were gonna like die eventually.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks. But and I'm not even a vegan now or anything, but it was just always something that was like a hard pill to swallow when I was a kid, and I was like the only person in the family that was difficult for, I felt like. And also just like, I don't know, just like little like every now and again like something kind of big would happen, like like I don't know, I've always felt really weird like saying that I was abused growing up, because it was nowhere nearly as bad as like what most of my friends went through. Like I didn't have very many friends in the town that I grew up in, but all the friends that I did have, like they lived in trailer parks, they struggled to eat, like they had to get jobs in junior high, like 13, 14, literally to help their families subsist. And I didn't have to struggle that way. So I just, I've always just been like really, I was dissatisfied with like the explanations I was getting from my family about all of that too. I'm sorry, what was your question?
It's okay. I was interested in how you said that you were both bored and traumatized at the same time, and you started to talk about how you're abused but other people got it worse, which is like I feel like a common thought, but also like if something bad happened to you, we don't really need to like necessarily compare it to someone who got it worse, because it still is pain inside of us and it's still valid and important and hurts.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm healed by any means therein. Like I definitely have like a lot of shame wrapped up in it, where it's like, damn, I really should kind of feel better, but I don't. But sorry, regardless, there were just some like really difficult instances. Like I don't want to go too hard into detail, but whenever I was quite young, I recall like an instance of like child sexual abuse in my home, like, and in that moment, like I left the room and like ran to my mom and told her, and the person who did it was right there, denied it. My mother to this day, like she currently like still claims that she does not remember this at all.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Like I'm okay.
Yeah. What was there any addiction in your family? Like, what were some of your earlier exposures to alcohol or substances?
It was my family is like extremely square anti-drug with like a massive exception for like alcohol. Like I think that they always kind of like portrayed their alcohol use too as like, they drink like normal people, like big air quotes around that and stuff. But just because like I don't think we need to shame alcoholics like that. It's all the same drug. But they always kind of portrayed it that way. But like definitely like my dad was a frat boy, so he kind of like glorified like a weird amount of like party culture around alcohol too, like basically preparing my brothers to be little fucking frat boys.
Oh my goodness.
Just kind of like cringy. They were cringy about it. Like, I definitely got my like flavored tastes of beer when like starting at like probably 7 or 8.
Just like sips off of your parents' beer? Little
like tiny glasses, basically like a flight size. like
your parents would serve you a tiny cup of beer?
Like a 5-ounce pour, probably.
Huh. Did it give you any like head change at that time? Like, what did you think?
Well, the first time they gave me a tiny glass of wine, I was like, all right, I chugged it, and I was like, ooh, I got dizzy. So I learned to like it really young, I would say. At some point, like whenever I was like 12 or 13, like my brothers kind of inadvertently like taught me about the liquor cabinet, because there's just like random liqueurs and shit. I would drink the triple sec. I would get into the like vermouth sometimes, just like weird like shitty cooking alcohol. And then they used to think it was really, really funny to pour me shots of random shit like Worcestershire sauce or Everclear, and like just like have me shoot it and then like, wait, no, follow it up with this, it'll make it all better. And it was like vegetable oil. They were just like little fucking assholes.
Oh my God. And how old were your brothers? You said you were 12 or 13?
Yeah, and then they're 5 and 6 years older than me, so they'd be like, like
17, 18?
17, 18.
Oh my gosh, just playing tricks on you.
Yeah, definitely. But that's always been their thing. Like it was always kind of like MK's the butt of the joke, because they're kind of like, I was an easy target, you know what I mean? Like
a little gullible.
Yeah, gullible, and like, I had like a lot of, I don't know, I had a lot of bullseyes on me. Like they made fun of me for like my weight and shit. Stuff that I don't think that anybody should be fucking treated badly for. But,
right.
Yeah.
And also like, you're a neurodivergent, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, me too. And I feel like there's just so much times where it's like I'm really like vulnerable to bullying or people pushing my buttons or something like that, just because I'm like really trusting and a people pleaser. Like I just want everyone to like me, and I want everyone to like, I just like believe everything at face value or whatever. And
definitely.
Like in childhood I didn't understand that, and in adulthood I'm like trying to work on understanding that. But yeah, when you said like having several targets on me, I'm like, okay, that really like resonates a lot, actually.
Yeah, you see, they treat me like that because I act the way I do. I just, just kind of like being surrounded by like derision and like bullying, whenever really like what we probably needed was a little extra guidance. Like, oh, my fucking stupid kid can't take verbal instruction, so I'm going to yell at her, really is what they think, but like yell at them whenever they don't know how to herd cattle for the first time. Or like, oh my God, whenever they tried to teach me how to drive a stick shift, my dad was in the passenger seat and both of my brothers were in the back behind us, and I stalled it once and all 3 of them started screaming at me. So I just fucking threw it into park and got out, and I was like, no, get the fuck out of the truck. I'm not doing this. Like they drove me to the point of giving up a lot. And so like, I kind of have to like, as an adult, where it's like, oh, I kind of like I want to kind of like develop myself and like learn things and stop like laying on my back and staring at the ceiling for hours. It's just kind of like, oh fuck, okay, that's why things that are difficult to me don't seem appealing. And for a long time, they didn't seem as appealing as like a pint of whiskey.
Goodness, yeah.
That's what I love the way you started this. Like, hey, what's your childhood like? It's like, hey, MK, why do you like to get fucked up?
Most of the time it can get brought right back to that. So when your brothers are giving you weird shit to drink, including like vegetable oil, but also Everclear, was there some part of it that was like, oh, thank God I'm having like a bit of acceptance, actually?
Oh,
like,
yeah, totally. Like whenever you're not being treated like a scapegoat, even if you're still kind of like at the bottom of the pyramid or whatever, like getting kind of like lovingly hazed feels good compared to being called like a little piggy or like, I don't know. They were just dicks. They were so sadistic. I don't know. Like, I think that whenever I describe some of the stories I have about my brothers to my friends, they're like, damn, were they like actually like serial killer level psychos? And I'm like, well, I don't know. One of them's in the military now, but so maybe. But
damn.
Like, oh man, we would go but it's just kind of complicated because I'll tell people about the time I was screaming and begging them to stop, but they held the barrel of their shotgun to a turtle's back and blew him to bits.
Oh.
But they'll think like, oh God, your whole life was terrifying like that. But it's like, no, I mean, we were often just hiking in the woods together.
Yeah, that's the thing about weird abusive relationships, though, is it's not always like 100% bad. And then when you get like small tastes of the good part, you're like, oh, this is fine. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's almost like being normal humans.
Yeah, almost. So you got introduced to the liquor cabinet. What happened after that?
It became basically all mine when my brothers both went off to college, and also like all of the attention of my parents. Like whenever I was like 15, 16, and both my brothers were in college, I don't know, maybe I was like 13. I was like more like 13, 14. I don't know. I was basically like, oh, I'm an only child for the first time. I was like, this is nice. I'm not like a scapegoat anymore. Because I was still like kind of like a good kid. I wasn't acting up at that point. Like I would sneak their liquor, but I think that even if they noticed that I was watering down their handle of vodka, like they probably didn't care because I wasn't like driving anywhere. I wasn't partying with other people. Like ironically, like it's a bad sign if you're like drinking alone all the time. And I was like chugging cupfuls of that shit that was basically water by the end of the summer. Right. But yeah, I that liquor cabinet kind of became all mine.
And you never found out or never got in trouble for it or anything?
No, I'm sure they knew. Like, I'm sure they knew, but they weren't going to get me in trouble with it because, like, to a point, I think that I was like, they like I said, they were like really, really anti-drugs. There was like a big level of like, I guess, kind of like prohibition in our family. Like that expectation we were never going to smoke weed or like basically risk getting disinherited or something. But like I think that they would kind of just like throw a blind eye to a little bit of liquor experimentation, especially since they like they were giving us servings whenever we were kids. Like that was just really normalized in our home.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they always lied about like their own relationship with it growing up. Like my mom she always acted like she never got drunk in college. She was like, no, I like drank alcohol, but only ever moderately, and I never got drunk.
And what did you see them doing when you were growing up?
They would drink like more than just a little bit. Like I think it's just kind of like they would say that they didn't drink. They didn't drink a ton whenever we were little. I think that they just didn't have that kind of time. And I grew up in a dry county. So like any listeners who aren't familiar, Arkansas has like counties where you just can't buy liquor at all, like beyond like normal can't buy on Sundays blue laws. Like, and it's really, really funny. Every time I think about this, it's like if you overlaid that map with like the map of like the severity of like meth addiction, it's the same map. Like dry counties are like way more vulnerable to meth addiction, but whole thing.
So they would have to like drive out of the county to replenish their supply that they're regularly drinking.
And it was just kind of harder for them to pull off whenever we were little. But like, it definitely like ramped up whenever they would drink what they felt like they could. Like I remember I've been like ever since all of the family was in their teens or older, we've been like getting drunk together. Kind of like a really, really big embarrassing pool party recently where like me and all my cousins got drunk and ended up talking about like suicide, but it was just because the whole family got involved in the conversation. It was just really, we were all just like, oh,
that got weird. So most of your drinking during high school was just by yourself out of the liquor cabinet. Did it ever go outside of that?
No, none of my friends ever wanted to drive and pick me up.
Because you lived in the boondocks.
Yeah. And it sucks. Like, I lived like 10 minutes out of town. They were just kind of like, we don't want to get shot. I was like, my dad's not that evil. I don't know. My brothers got to do basically whatever the fuck they wanted, though. My mom, like, complete ostrich, head in sand lady. Like, she just kind of, like, thought that her boys were just hanging out with the football team and stuff. But, you know, they were getting up to, I don't know. I was definitely, like, a lot less into that stuff in high school. I didn't really even start drinking and partying until I was like 19, 20.
Yeah, so what happened? You graduated high school, presumably.
Yeah.
You moved out of the house. What was that all about?
First I went to a boarding school for my last 2 years of high school. It was a weird situation. It's like, it was set up by friggin' Hillary Clinton in Hot Springs. It's called the Arkansas School for Math and Science and the Arts. It's just like a weird little thing. Like, it was like free for everybody, so it's not like a complete like charter, like pretentious kids school. It was like basically like a bunch of kids that also wanted to get away from their home lives, but like you apply to get in, and it's like a flat rate for tuition, and basically I just took like a shitload of college classes that also counted for high school. But we started smoking weed on the mountains. You know, like we were in the Hot Springs National Park.
So this is your last 2 years of high school?
Yeah.
Did you want to go and do that? Was it your choice, or
Yes.
was it like your parents sending you away?
It was my choice. I wasn't like in trouble or anything. I just wanted, I ironically had more fucking personal freedom and got into a whole lot more shenanigans whenever I got to the boarding school than, like, I was trying to get the fuck away from my parents.
And that's where you first smoked weed, you said?
Yep. I started hanging out in the woods, basically just like blowing off my homework, walking around in the woods, looking at rocks and trees, and getting so high I can't remember half that time.
Dang. Were you still drinking then too?
Just a little bit. I drank like a lot less whenever I got into weed, just because like it made me so fucking sick that one time. It was just like embarrassing. You know, your first time, you're like, you don't know that it's like, weed before liquor, you'll get drunk quicker. Liquor before weed, a bucket you'll need, or whatever.
I just feel like combining all, I mean, it's just a mess no matter what.
Eventually that became my go-to, but like it was just because I was never going to be not stoned. That was eventually. So, whenever I was a kid, it was just like a really special once in a occasional thing. Like I would smoke a joint with a friend, take like 4 hits and get so high that like, whoa, I can feel the song in my bones.
So smoking weed was like a game changer for you?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that it kept me off the bottle for like a few years of my youth after that, you know. I really do feel that way. Just kind of more, you know, so after the boarding school, yes, after I graduated from the boarding school, it was kind of like more of a casual time there, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it was really difficult. A lot of our mental health struggled there. I mean, a lot of the other kids were drinking really heavy, but I kind of wasn't really doing that myself. Whenever I tried to go to college, at the U of A in 2016, and this is like kind of difficult, but I was sexually assaulted in my dorm room the Friday before classes began. I had gone to like a little get-together at my friend's, like high school friend's apartment, and hit one of their new college roommates, walked to, I mean, one of my friends and his new roommate walked me to my dorm, and then, I don't know, I was really, really blackout drunk. I guess I felt really guilty for a long time because, I mean, mistakenly, I invited him into my dorm to, like, make out or whatever, but then it escalated. And then kind of like from that moment forward, like, you know, it was reported, like, my friends that were there, like, came back to check on me because, you know, one of the girls that was there was like, are you fucking stupid? You just left them alone with this guy. So, you know, it was just like this whole kind of like blow up event evening, just like super embarrassing situation.
Dang, I'm sorry that happened. That sucks.
Yeah. And it was just, you know, a different time. Like, I know that a lot of people right now are going to be like, yeah, obviously that was assault. Like, you shouldn't feel guilty for that. You had an agreement to make out with a man. You were like, we don't have a condom, so we shouldn't do anything else, even though you were so drunk you shouldn't have thought about that anyway. Really, it was just, I know that assault is not my fault, but it was just a very different time, and like growing up in like a, like that time of the South, like my generation was extremely vulnerable. We were extremely groomed online, like, especially like getting access to cell phones at like 15 and younger, like we were all like kind of like groomed to expect this behavior, like all of the like the irony of like the party culture that was like kind of glorified in my family and like the culture surrounding me is that like we have to kind of accept that like the growing like the I don't know, a big fuel to the fire of rape culture in our country is alcohol. Like so many of these cases involve alcohol, perpetrator and like survivor. I know that there's going to be a lot of people listening and thinking that that's a little obvious, but I was very much like not aware of like assault existing outside of like very, very violent assault being like, that was not, I was like, oh, okay. In that moment, I was like, oh, this is, it can be more complicated than that, kind of like a wake up call.
Dang. I'm so sorry.
Ironically, I went on to respond to that by drinking every single evening. Like, I did not go to class.
I was going to ask, like, after you went through that sexual assault, did your relationship to substances change? And it sounds like the answer is definitely
instantly.
Yes. Instantly.
I instantly like got very into recreating the mind state that led to my assault. But that was the only time that I was like outright victimized. The rest of it was just kind of like, men are creepy and they try to do stuff, but I'm bigger than them. I'm like the Chihuahua brain. Like I don't know. When a man, that's a big reason that a big driving force behind me needing to quit was that I fight aggressive men. I like physically fight aggressive men.
Like when you're super drunk?
Yeah.
Dang. So your drinking immediately escalated a bit after that, and you said you hadn't even really started college yet? Like, what happened?
Yeah, I just like, I went to maybe my first week of classes, but then, it was kind of just like the call, I kind of started to like get really into the party culture. Like on the outside, that was kind of what it was. I was definitely like in a trauma response, but at the time it definitely felt like, okay, I kind of like have been like forced into a coop my whole life. I've never had the chance to like access this stuff that all my, everybody has gotten to do. So I'm going to go to, I was going to go to fucking Mojito Monday, Wine Wednesday, Thirsty Thursday, like every single like frat party, which the only reason me and my friends were going to frat parties was to steal Trump flags because it was 2016. And, like, I guess there was, like, Halloween was really fun. We ran from clowns. There were clowns with knives that year, too, for some reason.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if anybody remembers that shit. I weirdly iconic year. I don't know. It was just, like, handles and handles and handles of free liquor at these frat parties. We would go and steal bottles from these guys. It was so much fun.
What was going through your head with the amount that you were drinking, and were you starting to get hangovers? Like, what was going on?
I pretty instantly, like, I had been on a psych med that was, like, not the best for me. I wanted to start experimenting with drugs. That was kind of, like, my main next goal. Stop going to class. I'm going to find some acid. And I'm going to, like, in order for all of that to work, I had to stop taking this fucking SSRI because, I hear that serotonin syndrome sucks. And I want to try all the things.
And you can die from serotonin syndrome.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I don't want to die of something that hurts.
So you get off the psych meds so you can do drugs.
I cold turkey with no doctor help because I'm a dumbass. And so, doing all of that and drinking, just like kind of like ramping up my use of like psychedelics and stuff. The first time I had acid was actually like really unmemorable. And and not really all that striking. I was just kind of like, oh my God, what? It very much felt like one of my first moments of, oh, I live in the world. That's weird. It's just really dumb. Just kind of like, oh, I've just been kind of numbing out for years of my life. Just kind of like embarrassing. But yeah, on my birthday that year, I woke up and I saw that my truck had been towed off campus, and I was like low on money. I was outside smoking a cigarette across the street from my dorm room or whatever, and I like started to feel really, really fucking weird on the phone with my dad. So I just like hung up. I like the cigarette. Oh, this cigarette's making me feel bad. And so I kind of keel over and start convulsing. I'm like conscious the whole time. It's not like, it wasn't like a grand mal seizure, but it was definitely like a psychogenic seizure. And I was like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. I hope nobody walks by.
Oh shit.
And it was my birthday. So I was like, oh no, I can't go to the doctor. I have to go drinking tonight.
Damn.
And I went drinking that night.
Goodness. Did anyone find you when that was happening, or you just kind of
went through it? I just kind of like went through it, and you know, I was semi-conscious. Like I couldn't open my eyes, but I could feel, you know, I don't know. It felt weird. It was like I could feel electricity misfiring in my bones. It felt shitty. But I basically just like got up and like made sure that the cigarette went the rest of the way out, and then went back into the dorm and told my friend, oh my God, I think I just had a seizure. She was like, if you don't call your dad, I'm calling an ambulance. And so I was like, hey Dad, I think I just had a seizure, it's okay. And he didn't call an ambulance either.
Damn.
And so I still got to party that night. Woo! That's just how little I think I cared about fucking anything at that time. I was like, I'm going to get exposed to a little bit of cruelty. Maybe the world doesn't fucking matter. I guess. I don't know.
No, relatable, honestly. There's been times where I've just been like, I don't give a fucking shit about myself. Like, I just care about the next drink or whatever is coming, you know?
Exactly. Kind of open door policy as far as that went, too. And I don't know. At that time, I was really, really prepared to try anything. The only reason that I did not like actively seek out super hard drugs at that time was because, first of all, I was like kind of a square. Like I didn't know how to I didn't get invited to those kind of parties. And my friend was like, she had a really, really weird story too. She had a situation in which she had like tried smoking meth, and she was like, MK, you can never do it, because it's really, really fucking goddamn good, and you'll instantly crash out.
Oh my God.
So I was like, aye, Captain, meth is good, heard. I'll keep that in mind.
So what else entered the picture besides acid?
I was getting really, really into Molly. I started to buy just grams and grams of Molly from this one guy. Just like a kind of like sketchy local ex-frat boy that was... He was a really weird character. I don't even really remember his name. But just like grams of Molly crystal. He recommended really, really high fucking doses to me and the other girl that were buying from him. So we were just on like too much, like dangerous amounts, and going to like local shows, so kind of like being on too much Molly in way too small of venues for it to make sense. We would like walk around in the woods and like go to the tunnels sometimes. It was just like really stressful on the body. And so you know, it didn't go like too far while like during that time, because it was just like a couple of months while I was still in college that semester. Like I dropped out by Thanksgiving, and I was in a psych ward over Christmas that year. Like I was very suicidal.
Dang, what happened in between all that drinking and all the Molly, and what landed you in the psych ward?
Really, it was just as simple as like interpersonal struggles, like just like struggles within my relationships, because we were all, you know, very, really, really fucked up together, and just kind of just being an emotionally immature kid, and landing myself in situations where I felt completely unsupported. I had things that I couldn't go to my family about. Not that I've ever felt supported by them in that sense anyway. My mom was always very much like, go to your room and pray about it, kind of.
Oh my God.
So it was just kind of like, you know, I couldn't tell my parents about the assault either, because like that was also like, you know, I had been, not that this is like real or anything, but I was like a virgin at the time. It was like a big deal at the time. Like I had never really done anything like that on purpose. So they didn't believe me though. Like there was this like weird occasion in high school where like my friends and I started carrying condoms around just in case, because we all had like little boyfriends or whatever. And, you know, just like my parents saw it and like, you know, they don't remember this conveniently. They like conveniently never remember any time they were in the wrong. But my dad called me a whore kind of deal.
Oh my God.
Just like mean. So I still haven't told them about the assault in high school or college there, because it's just like not worth it. Like,
especially if you're gonna, if it's predictable that you're not gonna get good support from someone, what is the point of telling them?
It's like, no, it's just not worth it.
Damn. So you were 18 in the psych ward? How long were you in there for?
I was 19 actually at the time, and I think it was a good 7 to 14 day stay. It was a blur. I think I might have been at the full 2 weeks, because it wasn't like a suicide attempt, but I was in a circumstance. I had plans to shoot myself. It's not really like if I had gotten to try, I would still, I don't know.
Was it involuntary, or did you check yourself in?
My parents didn't know what to do. Like my family has never really dealt with mental health issues at all. I have like no mental health history to go off of for my family, because neither side has ever like addressed their shit, even though like pretty much all of them are fucked up. But so they took me to the Arkansas Children's Hospital, because they could still see me because I was 19. They just didn't know what the fuck to do, so they were like driving me to Little Rock. And then instead of having me put in the psych ward there, they wanted me to be closer to home. So they sent me to the psych ward in Texarkana, Arkansas. It's like really a lot closer, but it was just, I say this so, it's just so trashy, dude. There were holes in the walls. The beds were fake. There were no shower curtains, and I was like, oh wait, why aren't there shower curtains in this place? And the like water just like jets onto the floor all over the place every time you take a shower. They were like, well, they like one of the other patients told me that there was a little boy, like a 6-year-old, had been in this hospital and had hung himself with a shower curtain, so they couldn't have shower curtains anymore. And it was just like everything anyone told me in this hospital was more traumatizing than the thing that put me in there. I was on the adult unit too, so every single person in there had like brain damage from meth and crack and syphilis, and every single person in there had PTSD from prison. It was a it was a massive wake-up call to like the nature of institutionalization. We were all talking about it. It was like, talking to people who had, I don't know. They were telling me that the kids in the unit, like, they spend most of their time there. Their parents would just turn around and like drop them back off whenever they'd been out, and like they went to school in that hospital.
Damn. Yeah, it's like I've also been institutionalized a couple of times and been really, really unimpressed with, country-ass psych wards or whatever, Northwest Arkansas psych wards. Just like, yeah, it's, I would not describe it as a healing environment.
No. It like really like a lot of people there were just kind of like, they were like, no, MK, like, I know it's really hard. Just like hold yourself together and they'll let you out eventually. And it was really just like, it's not even good for crisis mitigation at that point. These people are coaching me through like pretending to be okay so that they will clear you to be free. Mm-hmm. And, I a lot of love for the people that I was actually in there with. They had really, really funny. They had us all on fucking Seroquel, even whether or not we like, I guess it's just kind of a fucking godsend I was able to sleep at all. Mm-hmm. But just being like whacked out on Seroquel, one of the only 2 hospitals in Arkansas that allows patients to smoke cigarettes, and the like overseeing like nurse practitioner there was so passionate about not making people withdraw that she would buy cartons for the hospital.
Holy shit.
Cartons of Pall Malls. She was so sweet for that.
She's like, I don't want to see y'all without your nicotine.
She just didn't even want to fucking see it. I bet she's like, I don't know. I bet that I saw several people get the shot, like to get sedated, and I bet that having nicotine on deck prevents that from happening as often.
Dang. Yeah.
It's just got to be fucking difficult.
Yeah.
Why would you make people do that?
Seeing really like, I don't know. I mean, sometimes people in psychosis, but otherwise sometimes just really like, I don't know, excitable, manic, vibrant people. Yeah. Getting the shot and then all of a sudden just being like passed out for however long. It's just like, what? Is this One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Like, this is kind of scary.
The first time it happened, and like, she was distressed. I was like, yeah, obviously she's fucking distressed. She's yelling about something horrible that just happened to her. The first time that they did it while I was there, I was like, oh, okay, so it really is just like, it's just like...
to shut people up.
Yeah. Y'all just don't like that she's upset. I see. She's not being fucking violent or aggressive towards any of us or you.
Yeah, literally one time I remember seeing this person who I actually found on the outside like a few months later and been like, oh my God, hey. She like bursted into the room and she looks at me and she goes, I don't know if you're a man or a woman, but you're beautiful. And I was like, somebody's seeing me. She's seeing me. And then like the next thing I know, like some freaking nurse is just like cramming a needle in her arm. And I was like, no, wait.
What the fuck?
Yeah. But anyway, did you get diagnosed with anything while you were in there?
Oh my God. They tried to diagnose me with bipolar disorder, like immediately post-sexual assault, which I know now is just rude. It's just kind of like not fair to diagnose a 19-year-old with, and they put me on shitty medicine. They had me on this medicine called topiramate, which is like an anticonvulsant or something that they prescribe to people off-label as like a mild mood disorder, or no, as mood stabilizer. Sorry. And it gave me some of the weirdest. It gave me one of the weirdest trips I've ever had in my life. But whenever I got out, actually, like, so my parents were really, really hardcore about taking me to church. Like, we were going twice a week, and we never really fucking swung that before. I mean, it was Christmas time, so it was like there were like special extra like liturgies and shit to get through, which is like super formal, kind of like we were Lutherans. There was a lot going on. And
they thought God was going to save you when you got out.
Yeah, and I don't know. My mom had me watching a shit ton of like intervention. Which is like, at that point, like, I had the worst of substances hadn't quite yet happened to me. It was just like mainly just drinking way too much and stressing my serotonin out with the Molly. But,
did you identify with the bipolar diagnosis? Did you continue to take psych meds, or were you just like, what?
Well, I eventually, like, I had the privilege of seeing a slightly better psychiatrist at a point, and he was like, whoa, holy shit, they have you on Seroquel and topiramate. We're going to take you off of both of those things because they suck. Like, but anyway, while I was on the topiramate, I'll get it out of the way really quick. I was in church. This guy is giving the what's it called? Sermon. The Bible verse is like, the wages of sin is death, and it just like echoes through my brain. Death, 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 death. And then like one of the banners on the podium starts stretching all weird. It was like Alice in Wonderland, like things were shrinking, growing, wow. And like spider web fractal light visuals. I felt really, really sick, and I just kind of had to like white knuckle it in the pew. Like pretend that I wasn't tripping out, and it was the psych med that was like doing that to me.
Oh my God.
So I eventually like got off of that and like tried a couple of different other things, but then I just like stopped. I was like fucking off psychiatric care because I mean, like to that point, like I was like, okay, so the psychiatry and like therapy is bullshit, because all the therapy I had gotten at that point, like the therapist I was seeing in the hospital, they were all like, kind of the group sessions were like, all right, let's talk about anxiety. When it's kind of like, I don't know, there's like probably some things that the people in this room could be teaching all of you about like anxiety and a bunch of other shit. But also just like the therapist I had on the outside, she spent way more time talking about herself and her own trauma than I did mine.
Yeah, sometimes you really gotta frickin' bushwhack your way through a bunch of shitty mental health professionals before you find one that is legit, that can actually help you.
And I hope I'm able to afford a good therapist one day, genuinely. But at that point in my life, I was very much like, oh, okay, so like all of mental health care is bullshit. And I was really completely ready to fuck it off. I was like, I mean, I've been quoted before saying like, I hate therapy. It doesn't work.
I mean, yeah, the studies show it's like 40% of people can benefit from talk therapy, and then the other 60% just need like some other kind of healing modality, and it's such fucking hard work to like research them all and try them all, and then try them all for long enough and see if they work, and like try a bunch of different therapists and wait till you find one. But like, exactly. I promise that like it is worth it, because I'm finally at a point where I like have a good therapist and I'm doing a trauma therapy modality that is benefiting me, so it is worth it, people.
Yes.
Yes. So what happened after you had the coming to Jesus moment at church?
I was like, oh my fucking God, Jesus is Satan? Like, I don't know. It was just like a really, really crazy time. I definitely I was in like a weirder headspace. I was reaching for a lot of different other things in kind of like a unorganized way. But mostly I was just kind of like working while I was living with my family at that time. I was just like working as hard as I could and saving as much money so that I could get the fuck away from them again and move back up here and start back where I left off. Pretty much, I was ready, because I had met this like really, really hot girl, and that you know, like at the worst time of my life, and that always goes amazingly. Basically, like I just like worked long enough until I bought the Greyhound ticket before I even told my parents about it. I was like already packing up a tote, and I was like, I'm packing up all the shit. I'm taking this suitcase, and y'all are gonna drop me off at the Greyhound station in Texarkana because I'm 18 and you can't fucking force me to stay here. And they did. My mom was so fucking extra the whole time too. She like made eye contact with me like really, really hard, right? And then she looks back at like this dude that she had been like staring at really like embarrassingly, and she like looked at his ankle, and he's wearing an ankle bracelet, like he's on like he's being tracked. And then she hands me the tiniest pocket knife you've ever seen.
Oh my gosh. And you get on the Greyhound and you go back to Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, I had a really, really chill time. Nobody bothered me. I like actually like sat with another like a girl my age, and we like just talked the whole way. But so my friends were like wrapping up this. It was like spring the next year by then, and my friends were wrapping up that year of school, and we were all going to move into an apartment together. So I got a job at a shitty restaurant, a little shitty barbecue restaurant, and got a little apartment and started getting fucked up again, just about as much as I could.
Did you have any reflection on like the drugs and alcohol being the catalyst and cause to your mental break, or were you aware? Did you just not care? Like, where was your head at during that time with it?
Oh, I just like completely ignored that it was the problem. I'm sure that there was like a level at which I was aware, but I was just kind of like prepared to accept that it was the solution, because whenever I was drunk, that was the only time I felt good.
Yeah.
I mean, I do remember like whenever people eventually started to tell me like, you should get sober because it's good, I would be like, alcohol's not bad. Alcohol's not bad for you. Were
these people like noticing that you were having negative repercussions like for you on your behalf? Like, what was going on there?
Yeah. So eventually I did start seeing a therapist at like a friend's recommendation. They actually like, they were like, you know, you should look into it and like look specifically for a trauma aware therapist, because like, my God. So I, you know, I got on literally Psychology Today and accidentally ended up with the same therapist as a different friend, but you know, it's like kind of just a funny happenstance. She was just like this really cool like 90s goth, and she was sober. She was like super duper successful therapist, but she identified as an alcoholic, and it just like blew my mind. I was like, well, you know, like, you know, she's exactly why she was intentional about that too, though. The only reason she identifies as an alcoholic is to like kind of like change people's views of what an alcoholic is, or like what a life of alcohol addiction can be, because like it's really possible to have a career and still have a problem that needs addressing. So she was like the first person who straight up told me like your life would benefit kind of instantly if you'd stop drinking.
How did you respond to that? Did it resonate with you? Did it like free you in some way, or did you resist it?
Oh, I resisted it for months. It was basically like I paid for months of therapy that were just me. Like she was debating with me, like basically going down the bullet points. Eventually, whenever she got me to read This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, I realized, these were where all of her awesome arguments came from. It were just like straight facts. So it was just kind of revolutionary for me. It was pretty huge. That therapist definitely opened my mind. She put a lot of emotional labor into getting me to accept that, hey, pickling your brain sucks if you already have problem.
So did things start to turn around for you at that time?
Yeah, for a time. I was, 21 years old, and I made it 4 months without drinking after I turned 21. I picked it back up again because I just hadn't completely nailed down how to fit myself into my culture. I had been working in restaurant kitchens for a really long time, and anyone who's aware, it's like, they say that kitchens are pirate ships, or like, people are like Anthony Bourdain said, like, the last refuge for the misfit is the kitchen, or whatever. And then, we like to get fucked up. It was just the perfect thing after a long, difficult shift of making sandwiches or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, every restaurant I've ever worked at, the ones that serve alcohol give you free beer when you're done working, yes. And the ones that don't serve alcohol, the people just have whatever they're going to drink anyway. So, yeah, definitely true in my experience as well. So you quit for 4 months, but then working in a kitchen environment, it didn't work out.
Yeah, I definitely, like, looking back, I didn't think that it was actually peer pressure or enabling back then, but like, I look back and remember the glee on everyone's face the first time I started drinking with them in that kitchen. Because I was sober whenever I started at this new job. And I still look back with kind of like weirdly like drunk rose-colored glasses. Because it was like, obviously we were so drunk that it wasn't like a healthy environment. But it was still like one of the most fun jobs I've ever had. I love those people. So, we weren't being very good to ourselves, but we were making some good pasta and stuff.
Yeah, and being accepted and fitting in, like,
it feels nice.
Something to that.
And I had made it for several months in that kitchen too, so I had to quit that job in order to like eventually try and quit again. And God, that like next quit, it was whenever I got into a relationship, and we were both still drinking whenever we like first started hanging out, but like we both had previous experience and wanted to like get back on that wagon. And he quit again like before I did for like several weeks, but it just kind of felt like like whenever you're like about to jump off of a high dive, and it's just kind of like hard to jump.
Yeah, it's scary because you don't know what to expect because your whole life has been like this, and you're like, oh shit.
Just kind of like, and I'm gonna start now. Okay, wait, no, I'm gonna start now. Wait, okay. Yeah, but whenever I finally like made it several days, it was just like easier from then. But yeah, the early days at that one restaurant were really difficult. Before, whenever I don't know, I forgot to mention, like, there was years ago I was in a relationship with that girl that I wanted to, like, basically, I wanted to move back up to Fayetteville so that I could, like, kind of hang out with her, pretty much. There was this other individual in our community at that time who was just kind of like a giant liability, super into, like, ordering drugs off of the dark web, and, you know, I don't know, I kind of think it's one of those ironic situations where, like, they were, like, kind of, like, they came from kind of a wealthy background and, like, decided to get into heroin because they thought it was cool. So they were ordering a ton of heroin and like definitely introduced several of my friends into that, which I don't think that they've gone on to do it again, but like shot my friends up.
Goodness.
Which is like, how dare you? But also like sold liquid fentanyl to this girl that I had been hanging out with. And then she was like, hey, I have this stuff. Want to try it? And I was like, what is that? And she was like, it's like an opiate. So there was,
to say the least.
To say the least. So, you know, like there was a time where I was so like naive to like the nature of all of these things that I was prepared to try anything. And I definitely like spent a week vaping fentanyl on purpose with this girl. And just like going from that and like gradually allowing myself to like be told otherwise and like kind of, I don't know. I started angling like more towards alcohol after that. And like I had several friends who were like, no, opiates are evil and people who do them are evil, MK, even though they were like big punks, but they had like really, really hard lines about stuff like that.
It's a bit dehumanizing.
To say the least, yeah. So, kind of like the kind of people who say like you can't ever trust people who do meth because you never really quit that shit. You know, it's the stuff that's just like basically untrue.
Dang. So you had that 4 months, and then were you kind of going back and forth? Like you're talking about jumping off of the high dive thought. When did you actually start to get into like lasting recovery?
It was definitely like the time that I quit, like with the partner eventually. Like I quit after the 4 months. I definitely drank for another like 2.5 years, and then me and my old partner started quitting again together. It was just kind of like instantly easy. I think that just kind of like having that like accountability, not that we were like forcing each other or like pressuring each other to stay on it, but just kind of like knowing that we weren't alone and like having that kind of, I get it, honestly, it just kind of felt like he was like the only sense of community I had for the 2.5 years that I made it while I was with him. And to the point where it's kind of like, I'm a little bit more ashamed of it than I should be, but like eventually, like after our breakup and like a really difficult physical injury, I ended up relapsing over this past holiday season, between basically from Halloween till Christmas.
What was the catalyst for that? Like what was it? Just like the pain of the injury? Like what happened?
It was embarrassing, really. So all right, so me and my partner, and we're still best friends. This is not, there's no like hard feelings there and stuff. He's still like quite a big lifeline for, I mean, we still kind of help support each other in a lot of different ways. But so we break up on the first day of classes of my college semester last year. And
so did you get back into college during sobriety?
Yes. So like about a year into sobriety, I was like, hey man, I think that I might be more useful to everyone if I like got a college degree. I think I remember I used to be pretty good at school. Like nobody like worried about me because my grades were good or whatever. So I was like, hey, maybe I should do this. And he was like, yeah, I think you can. So like I started doing that again, and I've been getting a lot out of it. I am really nervous about opportunities in the field because our government seems to think that our water resources don't matter at fucking all. But
dang, yeah, I mean that's scary to work that hard and not have prospect for a job. I hope you're able to figure that out.
I'm sure I will.
Yeah,
they can't hold me back forever. But so shit.
You got an injury and then
yes. So,
drank again.
Yeah, I got the shoulder injury, and then I was honestly like, I had tickets to go to the concert in Oklahoma City, and every person that I asked to go with me, since I didn't think that me and my ex wanted to like go on vacation together yet, they all kind of like had to cancel one after the other, so I like drove myself like in sling to Oklahoma City to this concert for Halloween because I didn't want to like miss out just because like so much shit was going on. But I like pushed myself a little too hard, and I walked in there and I instantly felt so fucking socially anxious. Like I didn't know it was a DIY venue. Mm-hmm. I thought it was like a bigger venue, which would feel like more anonymous and better. But like every single person and people, like all of the people that were in the bands were just like out in the crowd at their own merch tables. I was like, oh, it's like this, fuck. So I was like, no, I need this. I was in the beer line, and I'm not gonna lie, like I had tried to find mushrooms for this show, because that's something that, like, even while I was sober from alcohol, I will make the occasional exception for psychedelics every now and again, just on principle. I haven't had a hard time with mushrooms, but so the person that I asked was like, I don't have mushrooms, but I have this Coke.
Oh dear.
And I was like, well, I'd never really had a problem with that stuff either, kind of like I'd never had a personal problem with it, so I'd made exceptions for it before too, even though I'd never spent money on it before. So it was just like really, really speedy. I felt really, really high. I was like, oh God, I'm sweating in this place. And I was just in the beer line instantly. I was like, I need to chill this out.
So from like 2.5 years sober to Coke being the thing that breaks it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll make you sweaty. That'll make you a little sweaty.
It's also like I'd already, like, I had to realize kind of recently, like, Coke and alcohol are always going to be kind of like, they are going to accelerate each other. Mm-hmm. So the relapse was it was made difficult because I had a new access to cocaine that I had never had before, like kind of relatively cheap too, from multiple people that I like worked with and knew personally. And so I wasn't aware of this for a long time, but I learned that alcohol and cocaine, whenever they're both in your system, they actually like interact and create like a whole different third compound with, subtly, like different physical effects. It's called Coke ethylene, and it's why, like, I never thought that I liked Coke. I was like, I think Coke sucks. It doesn't fucking feel good unless you're drunk. And I was right. It's like, I've never liked Coke, but I was becoming addicted to Coke ethylene this most recent, like, go of it. It was just so difficult because, like, previously I was like, I could never see myself drinking again. And then, because I've never had, I've never had a moratorium on, I've never had to, like, stop myself from doing nose drugs before because I just never had access to them. So they were never that big of a deal. I was like, oh yeah, they're bad too.
So that night at the show, did you take it too far? Like, what happened?
Oh, it was fucking funny. I was like, okay, well, I'll be alone, but I'll have this bag of Coke with me, so at least it won't be hard to make friends. But I made friends every single place that I went that night. I probably only drank like 5 beers and I got hammered. But every single person I was like, hey, so like, how do you feel about like Coke? Kind of like trying to make it sound like I was trying to find some. Never ended up like having to tell people that I had any on me, and didn't end up doing any more of it because nobody that I hung out with they were all like, yeah, I kind of hate it, or like they're like, I can't do it anymore or I'll die. It was ironic. I kind of think that there was like a guiding hand going like, just trying to keep me safe that night, because I don't know, man. I didn't run into a single person who was like, hell yeah.
Funny. So then the next day?
The next day, I drove myself back home, and I went back to my restaurant job. It's a really, really big party environment, and it's also a wine bar. It's like a restaurant and wine bar, kind of. So it's really centered around being able to sell alcohol, and also like being able to drink it culturally. Like, I don't know. It's just a really, really big party environment. So I had a Halloween that lasted till Christmas. I kept going and going. And during that time, like a couple of like, it was like kind of an escalated, like shortened version of my life between 2016 and like 2020. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like slowly realizing like as the party kept going, it just kept going wrong. And now cocaine was more in the picture. So I was getting exposed to like more and more scary and dangerous men. And just remembering what it is that I hate about being out there every night, and just feeling disgusted with the way that like the people I like fucking treat each other over this shit. So it's really kind of always been like the principle of the thing, and nowadays it's like kind of harder to convince myself to like want to drink alcohol than not, but I think that harder drugs have kind of like, they will make that more vulnerable to that. And it's just like another thing to look out for.
For sure. So what, after that couple of months, what happened that made you to be like, oh, I gotta put down again?
Actually, you know, like, things weren't going well for me. I wasn't going to class. Like, I've been doing really well in school because, like, I had the support of that really good relationship with my friend. And funnily enough, like, I knew that the whole time I knew that this was not sustainable. I knew that, like, what I was doing was hurting myself, but I was like, no, I kind of, like, deserve this. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I need to...
Like reward or punishment mindset?
Mostly both. Actually, like, weirdly enough, both. I said mostly both. I really feel like like at times it was just weirdly both. Like, I was like, I kind of just like, I want to stop. I want to break from the work. You know, I want to break from trauma work. I want to break from living in my body. But also knowing that indulging in that is like flirting with a gun.
And perhaps creating more trauma work.
Exactly. And it truly got dicey at times. They're just scarier and scarier dudes on the street. Dang.
So eventually you were like, well, I'm not going to class, and this is kind of a reflection of last time. Then what drove you to stop?
My best friend, the partner I'd broken up with, like, he sat down with me and he was like, I've been watching you steadily decline. The light is leaving your eyes and you're terrifying me. And that, you know, it says a lot about a person when it's like, you know, that soon after our breakup, you know, our support of each other had not gone away.
Yeah.
He was definitely like one of the only people to like come to me with concern on that. And I really do feel like it's because I'm kind of fun to get drunk with sometimes. You know, I'm not always like picking fights with frat boys. It's just whenever they're you know, they almost hit me with their truck or whatever.
Oh God. So when your friend brought that up to you, was it met with fuck you, I'm fine, or was it met with, oh thank God, now I finally have a reason to get back into recovery?
Oh yeah, it felt relieving. I was like, oh fuck yeah. I was like, oh, somebody cares.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, was I doing all this for attention? That's lame.
So what happened after that? Like how did you get through like the cravings and stuff?
I drank a lot of shrub soda. I'm not gonna lie, just apple cider vinegar syrup in my soda, and I was just kind of like, oh well, I don't know. I never mind. I did some I did some ketamine. I did some ketamine. I did things that I can't recommend to people. You know what I mean? I was substituting one party for another. I definitely had to wean myself off of the street. I stopped drinking alcohol like basically on Christmas night. My mom was like, "You want some mulled wine? It cooks all the alcohol out of it." And I start sipping it. I'm like,
no, it doesn't.
Bullshit. Bullshit, lady. Bullshit. I stopped drinking, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna get a little help from some friends. And I don't use ketamine very hard because it'll make me really sick tum. So I was like, okay, I'll get a couple grams of that and I'll make that last for 6 months. And I did. And I spilled some of it and I was like, whatever. Kind of like, I think I even threw gave my last bit of it away. And it's a really weird drug to do socially, so I think that it just kind of like, it being the only thing I had.
Was it harm reduction or was it just replacing one thing with another?
It was harm reduction. It definitely didn't impact my life as badly as alcohol did, like yet, you know? And I've also like, oh God, I'm just way more scared of ketamine addiction than I am a lot of things because like I saw this Reddit post where a guy was like, oh, well, guys, I've done it to myself. He was talking about how he'd been doing a gram a day for over a year and he just finally had his first like chunky, thick, white piss. I was like, it damages your bladder. And that's basically like people say that to avoid that you spit your drips or whatever, but it's not, spitting your drips only helps because you're absorbing less ketamine into your bloodstream. Like it damages your bladder if you're doing it. Basically, I need to stop doing that because I'd rather get it from a doctor.
So you just kind of got scared out of doing it more? Did you feel yourself getting addicted to it at all, or?
No, really. I'm really weird with harder drugs. I think I'm a lot more. It must be I think it's an autism thing. I don't know if this is like super studied, because of course they don't study drugs like this, but. Like I'm just like a little bit simultaneously like more sensitive to drugs than some people, but also like I can tank a lot if I wanted to. I don't know. It just kind of like makes me kind of sick. I don't know. I'm just like a little bit of a square. So I would just kind of like take tiny little lokes of it throughout the night. But yeah, I kind of just didn't want to go super hard with it because it's not fun to puke.
For sure. And so then you stopped taking ketamine eventually, and then were you just raw dog in life after that, or what was it like after ketamine exited the picture?
I've been struggling to quit fucking smoking weed because it's making me nervous.
Dang. So
now I'm just kind of like, I'm just slowly working through like the little things that aren't going to kill me, but, will improve my life over time.
And does smoking weed feel like harm reduction, or does it feel like replacing addictions?
Sometimes it feels like harm reduction. I think that it's not like it's, at this point, I don't think it's like keeping me from drinking. Like kind of just like not wanting to go to like start up another 2-month fucking cycle of drinking makes me not want to drink again. Just like, oh God, I've already made it this far. But... I think that really, like, the thing that weed is helpful for is, like, working with PTSD symptoms, or just kind of, like, masking them or reducing them. And I think that it's becoming less helpful. Like, I think that, something about my brain chemistry is changing. Like, I don't know. It's just not been as useful for those things. I think maybe, having a higher tolerance to it because smoking it constantly isn't that great. It started to make me kind of nervous. Like it just, and kind of like having to need it, and it slows me down, makes me less effective. But whenever I'm not high, I'm slow and ineffective too. It's just kind of fucking shitty.
Dang.
I'm addicted to the drug that makes me stupid, and whenever I don't smoke it, I feel stupid.
Oh my gosh. So what else are you doing that is different in your recovery this time? You said you were... Well, we've kind of got a series of other substances that are going a certain direction, but then you also said you're drinking a lot of shrubs. Like, what are you doing? Does it feel different this time? Do you have other, like, coping skills, or still seeing a therapist? Like, what else is going on for your recovery?
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to, like, see a therapist in a really long time, just because I haven't been able to get insurance that I can afford, and I haven't qualified for Medicaid, and for some reason they think I make too much money, even though I can't afford the insurance that I can qualify for.
Goodness.
It's just, but that's like a goal. I've been really trying to kind of like do the things that I was recommended to do in therapy before, like wake up, drink water, meditate, eat food every day. As it turns out, that kind of helps the person to feel like a human. I've been really, really trying to just be intentional about it, and like building routines that feel good. I never really like had the chance to keep a journal like most of my life. I didn't have a journal that I kept. Like I had shredded or burned so many books that I'd written in that I don't have any record of my life. So I'm like forcing myself almost to keep this one. And even if I don't write in it every day, just kind of like try to like chronicle the shit that I go through, not just the times that fucking suck. Like write things that I'm grateful for, and just trying to seek knowledge about the world through like knowledge in nature, learning more about the plants around me. I think that's just like focusing on my interests instead of working to mask pain all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, that's a difference between like abstinence and recovery. Recovery is like getting back the things that we lost, like being in touch with our humanity, feeling the difference of what it feels to sleep well and eat every day and meditate and journal and remember the things that we used to love, or find new things that we can love and just becoming more of like, I don't know, a person who's in touch with ourselves again. Is that your experience at all?
Yeah. I mean, finding myself for the first time. Sometimes I feel like it happens all the time. I'm always waking up and being born constantly. I just feel like a new baby all the time.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you've been getting into that's new for your recovery? I know you mentioned reading This Naked Mind years ago with your therapist. Have you been doing anything else like that?
Yeah, I've been, listening to podcasts, and basically the most helpful thing so far, and absolutely thank you for it, has been engaging with community of like-minded people, even like people who are like curious about harm reduction, and just in my own community. It's being able to like come out with this stuff without being ashamed of it or afraid that I'd like of being seen as like sitting on a soapbox. A lot of people think that I'm like high horsey about it, but it's like really like I've always felt like this is something that I owe to people. The first time that I tried to quit drinking when I was 21 years old, it was something that I wanted to do as like a gift to other people. My therapist like being the first person to convince me to quit. I mean, other people had told me to try and get it under fucking control. I was always the drunkest person in the group. But I don't know. The amount of people around me that were also kind of like, well, that's not what we meant. whenever I took it this far, is like, that's a little funny, but.
Yeah, I mean, some of us, the control is not real. Some of us, it's just like abstinence is kind of like the only thing
exactly.
about it.
I couldn't fucking trust myself.
And it doesn't make us better or worse than anyone else. It just like is the truth. And sometimes, like people see how someone was describing it the other day as like we're kind of like functioning as a mirror to people, where when we're like in our sobriety or like in our recovery and we're talking about it or proud of it or like excited for ourselves, like sometimes people that are still using, like it can kind of be painful for them to see that reflected, because then at times like it forces them to confront their own dark side. So yeah, it can be hard socially trying to find a balance between like loving yourself and being proud of yourself for being in recovery, and also not like offending or triggering people that are like kind of still in a hard place. Exactly.
Yeah. I found that I can't even fucking talk about quitting weed. I just like can't. I shouldn't, like it's something that I'm just gonna have to kind of work through on my own. Maybe like sometimes tell my coworkers like, hey, sorry, I'm like feeling like absolute dog shit today. I haven't had pot in a week. But I can't really say I'm quitting pot, because they'll all be like, why in the fuck would you do that? I had a coworker the last time I tried, because that's just been a struggle for like a month now. The last time I tried, he was like, well, at least you're drinking again, right?
Oh my goodness.
It was just like, because like, I mean, I understand the psychology of like, there always has to be something swimming in my bloodstream. If there's not, it's time to freak out. Like, I mean, even times like where, I don't know, there was just a time where even if I was in a position where I couldn't smoke weed, I would try to get a little bit of Klonopin, just, I think that like what I have is, kind of like a type of polysubstance abuse disorder kind of situation, and it might be quitting shit forever. I don't know.
Yeah. Time will tell on that. You're the scientist, learning, getting data about yourself
every day.
So what do you think people don't understand about addiction?
I think that really understand that it is individualized in a lot of ways. I think that understanding yourself is like the easiest way to understand addiction. And just understanding that like at large it's not your fault, really. There are things that have happened, and I mean there's choices that are made too, for sure, but there's a lot of things that happen to us that kind of like lead us in this direction, and that like, I mean, there's no shame, and definitely no shame in looking at it a little closer, reanalyzing your relationship with these things. I don't recommend to any of my friends to quit because, for one, I find that mostly just pisses them off. But also, like, I think that it just scares them.
Yeah. Someone will have to come to that conclusion when it's right for themselves, for sure. It's definitely very individual. And if you're a person who drinks or a person who uses drugs, like, we love you, you know, like, it's chill. And if you're a person who wants recovery, we love you for that too.
Absolutely.
It's just like, it's your life, you know. If you could speak to someone who's like in their darkest days of addiction and they're really struggling today, what would you say to them?
I would say, I love you. Do you want to make some art? Do you want to come make a collage? It's what I've done for several of my friends that have been going through some really hard times this year.
Yes.
It's all I can. It's all I have.
It's perfect. A little, like, something to do and someone to be around is really important. So we're just, like, not alone. So perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking today.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast. I barely remember any of it.
Wahoo! Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Petet made our logo. Our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. Logan Bragg wrote our beautiful theme music. We are entirely supported by donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. Your tax-deductible donations can be made to our Venmo or to our PayPal at Recovery Demystified. May you be happy and free, dear listener.